It's now 8:30 and welcome to this Puna Kōrero meeting of the 20th of April. What a wonderful day for it. It's not the 20th of April. I'm reading the minutes of the last meeting. Yeah, sorry, I better get to the right heading. Okay, actually, welcome to this meeting of the 4th of May. Okay, so before we have our karakia, I just want to welcome Sean, who's Jack's equivalent in Wellington. He's come here to observe how we do our meetings, and he's seen how we make mistakes right up front anyway. I do. So you're having two other people join you, and they'll just come in when the train arrives. So if anyone wants to take that message about public transport, yep, feel free. All right, let's start with karakia, and can I ask Jeff to lead us in the karakia, please?
Kia mata, kia mana, he mihi nui kia koutou, he kua tai mai ai ki konei, and happy Star Wars Day. Right, everybody, toru, wha. Whakatakata hau ki te uru. Whakatakata hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā tātara ki tai. E hi akan,
Ana
te atakura. He teo, he hoka, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora. Kia ora koutou.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you for the pace as well. Nice and measured. Right, yes, it does. Oh, I completely missed that, Caroline. I had a note on here to say to Sean, may the force be with you, but it completely went over my head. So, all right, let's go to apologies. We have apologies from Councillor Ford and Councillor Nalo, also from Taku Parai. I'll put in an apology from Taku as well. We have no requests to speak. Oh, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. I'll move those apologies. Do I have a seconder, please? Yep, thank you, Jeff. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Public forum, we have no requests to speak in public forum. Yes, come in, ladies. Yep. Are there any conflict of interest declarations? No. There being none, we'll move on to notification of extraordinary business, of which I've been advised there is none either. And that moves us to where I started from, the confirmation of the minutes of the 20th of April 2023. I'm going to move the minutes to get them on the table. Thank you, Councillor Trillen. Second. Are there any corrections to the minutes? No. Thank you, Mike. There being none, I'll put the minutes. All those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. So that brings us to our substantive business, and the first item on the agenda is the proposed speed management plan, the request to consult, which is what we're here to approve today. You'll have either one of these on the table, or there's a download that's available on Diligent for those of you that haven't. Oh, okay, there's none on the tables. It's only me that's special. Right. So I'll take that as read and note that all we're doing here this morning is agreeing to consult on this proposed management plan. We'll have an opportunity to talk about it substantively. I'm not saying you can't already, but we'll have an opportunity to talk about it after the consultation process. So I'm going to move that report to get it onto the table. Do I have a seconder, please? Mayor Baker, thank you very much. Right. As I said, I'll take it as read. Who's going to come up? Great. Canute. Oh, and... Okay. So if you just want to run us through briefly, Canute, the key issues, you'll note that there have been a number of adjustments to the consultation document, which is good. Thank you very much for those that fed that back. On behalf of Canute.
Good morning, all. I joined Transport's team as a planning and programming manager, and this project is part of the speed management review because of the change in the legislation. The previous legislation is road by road. Now it's a whole network approach. And what is the advantage here is the local roads, what Porirua manages, the speeds can be fixed by Porirua Council. So that's the advantage. So we are going with the whole network approach, and also in line with the Kapiti, Wellington, Hutt, and everyone together. So the whole idea is around the schools, we have to reduce the speeds to 30 kilometers an hour during the operating time, peak times. So what we are proposing is we reduce the speed to 30 for non-arterial roads permanently at all times. And the arterial road, because that function of the road is slightly different, not only the speed, is also the queues backed up. So we are saying it's going to be a temporary or variable speeds. So operating times we go as a 30, and other times it come back to 50 or whatever it is. And the same way we are going to look at the marae. We got 4 maraes. We got 35 schools in Porirua, and 4 maraes. We will include that also high benefit area. We are going to do it now. And then the next one is closer to the town centers, because the town centers are close by to the schools, and it's also busy throughout the day. So that will be a permanent kind of a speed reductions. And also we are looking at some other speed reduction where we have 70 kilometers an hour. It is not safe and appropriate speed. So what is coming as that one will be 70 to 50 kilometers an hour. So, for example, Titaibai Road, we are proposing to reduce the speed to 50. And it's a consultation, so we will get the feedback, what is the public wants, and then we will go from there. The other thing is what we are doing is we are also consulting as part of this consultation, or we're drawing a link road to 70 kilometers an hour, which is currently 50 kilometers an hour. We came to the council before and we have been asked to do that. So we'll include that as part of this consultation program. Yeah.
Thank you, Canute. I have a question from Mayor Baker and then from Jeff.
Thank you. That was the question about that link road, because that's got a subdivision coming off it with 150 houses, yet the Whitby one has got one coming off it, and you won't increase that from 50. I thought our conversation around the table was that Waitangira would go to 60. How are you going to do 70 when you've got 150 houses coming onto a 70k road? Because you originally said no, and now you're going out to consult saying you're going to do it?
No, I understand, Mayor Baker, that our discussion at the time was we suggested 60, but then a number of councillors around the table said, no, 70, let's have a go at 70, and that's why it's at 70. I agree with you.
The conversation is how do we get to that, because there is such a large subdivision coming off it when they won't let us do it on the other one. That was my question, sorry. It's about the safety side of it. They're pushing safety, yet they're letting one road go and not the other. I just want an officer to comment on it.
Correct. Our recommendation was 60 kilometers an hour, but because of the councillors requested that, we include it for the consultation purpose as 70.
Thank you.
I guess that begs the question, how is that, so if it comes back and, I mean, this is just a consultation document, what happens to the document after that? If everyone says, yeah, look, we agree, just talking about the 70K, we agree 70Ks. Where does it go from there?
Once this comes, after the consultation, this has to go to the Director of Land Transport for their approvals, and we got to make sure that they agree to it. Most likely, they will not be.
Through the chair, you remember the conversation at the time that it goes into the NZTA or Waka Kotahi, and they make the ultimate decision. So we've outed that well and truly around this table.
Yeah, I don't think we have any other option but to go with it now. We can change. I mean, I was never in favour of 70, but that's what it's come out at. Do you want to make any further comment?
My second question was, it's great that we're going out for consultation, fantastic. And if residents obviously want things changed, great. But what's going to happen when we go to actually say, well, how do we work this out? What's going to happen? Are we going to have people out there with speed cameras? Because we know that everyone's going to speed and we don't have enough staff for compliance. So what are we going to do compliance-wise? Is that going to be up to the police or up to us?
Police will be enforcing the speed limits. However, we could look into doing some infrastructure improvements like feedback signs and things like that to encourage the people to conform with that speed.
Through the chair, you remember a couple of months ago, Ethel Harris, when he was here, came through with starting his safety program around schools. So you start with signage, you've got yellow lines, the simple sort of cheaper treatments, and then you're into modification of roads, which is more expensive. So that first stage of work, we've gone to the market. I think we're about ready to appoint someone to do that first stage. We're getting about 40% of what we thought we'd get. That's the way the market's moved. So what do you do in these sort of situations? We're a council, we're here forever. We just pad it out. So we'll be moving slower, but you'll see the signage go in, the yellow lines will be relying on the police, the public feedback. They'll talk to the police, we'll talk to the police if we've got speeding problems around schools. Hopefully they'll target. That's the way it will work.
Yeah.
Through the chair, all moving vehicle offences are enforced by the police. It's only stationary vehicles that council enforces.
Okay, Jeff, you have a question.
Kia ora no hea mana. He pātai tohu tua whā mo te whakamarama. My questions aren't about individual areas or that's under the discussion document for the public, and nor are they about what the consequences are for enforcement. It's about the stringency of the item that was tabled around the rationale for review. Point 4 in the background section, and I want to look at the last 3 words, key government policies. Can officers, for question number 1, can officers confirm that they did take into account the announcement by the government on the 13th of March with regards to version 2 of Road to Zero?
What is version 2 of Road to Zero, Jeff?
To help while they're looking for it,
Yeah,
I'll
while
pull
they're
out a few quotes from a media statement which kind of illustrates the point in general terms. The government now only plans to focus on the, quote, most dangerous 1% of state highways. And further on, it then says, we will continue to make targeted reductions in the areas immediately around schools and marae and in small townships that the state highway runs through.
Through the chair, what you've talked about is state highway.
Indeed.
Yeah,
But
so I'm not aware of any change in version 2 for this national program of getting 30 around schools at all. I haven't picked up anything at all, and I did ask Karen, who does the strategic work in Daryl's unit when version 2 came out, to advise me of anything at all in there that I should know about, and I haven't received anything at all. So I think the people in the know here are saying this national program is going on. There's no change in it at all. I think the the government's pullback of policy is all around the state highway, how extreme they were going to be with state highways.
And I think you noted, Jeff, did you not, that schools were still included there.
Indeed.
And this is stage one, ours is schools, so
Yep.
we're not planning to do anything else.
However, there are other streets that aren't necessarily attached to schools where there are speed reductions being proposed.
Yes, there are on this, and I think you've covered that, but that'll be a timing thing, and I think we'll have an opportunity to review that once this comes back from consultation, yeah?
Yeah. My understanding, like if I think about my experience around New Zealand or around the Motu, there are plenty of places in New Zealand that have schools on state highways, and there's an argument on those state highways about that councillors have about, how do you reduce the speed on a state highway, and why should it be reduced when the kids aren't actually in school, and what sort of time and things like that. So that's what I think it was more aimed around, that the minister would have been getting some feedback from rural provincial New Zealand about there's no way you can have this state highway at 30 when the rest of it's 100. I can think of some places around Ashburton, for instance, as you head to Timaru, places like that, that you're roaring along at 100 k's and then you've got to slam on the brakes and do 30.
So, acknowledge that answer. What would you say then if there is a risk to overreach by us as a council on routes that aren't pertaining to schools or maraes and speed reductions, if central government's own expectations is to focus on the 1% of most dangerous roads from a state highway perspective and using that as a guidance for a city in its speed management plan?
Can I just answer that first, as a councillor? Jeff, I would have thought that there is enough common sense around this table that would prevent us from overreaching, as you say, in terms of doing too much. But that would be I think there's enough common sense around the table to prevent us from doing that, particularly when we get the results of the feedback from going out to consultation. But I'll leave it to officers to add to that.
I think all I'd add to, I agree with the chair. I think we will see what the consultation brings. New Zealand as a whole, this 30k around schools and in townships, it's rolling out throughout New Zealand. And I would have thought, even with the amount of congestion that's going on with traffic, etc., most people are understanding of it. If there is some rollback from us, if we've got the members of the public saying this is ridiculous, this should be 50, then of course we'll listen to that.
One more question, and then I might just take a moment for a brief comment. The councils provided a copy of mega maps from Waka Kotahi around the GIS, basically, of maps of the areas that they considered are the 1% with regards to the state highway network. As individual members of the public, we don't have access to that, but as a councillor, is it possible that we could have either access to that system or exports of the relevant maps within the Porirua city area with regards to the data that's contained within those GIS maps?
Yeah, the mega maps is managed by Waka Kotahi,
Yep.
and if the access is provided by them, if you have requested for an access for what reason, and they will provide it. If they don't, we can provide you the dump.
To that, wouldn't just be faster if you were to just give me the stuff that you guys have got?
Sure, we can provide that.
Sup. I've had instances before on other agenda items where things I've requested don't get followed through. So can I ask a question of officers? How long should I wait before I come back and actually say, when am I going to receive that information?
I just
I think, Jeff, you can assume that you will get that information.
Okay.
Right.
So briefly for a comment, I am still concerned about overreach, not with regards to schools or marae. I think there's consistency with what has been proposed for the public consultation around reducing speeds around area for our tamariki, around schools and around marae. I don't think there's any dispute about that. Where I think we will get with our feedback, and I will be waiting to see what comes of that, is whether or not we are overreaching with regards to areas where we have, say, 70k zones that aren't attached to schools, and there's a proposed reduction in the speed limit there. So I think that to take the chair's point, we will take great care in making sure of avoiding that risk. Kia ora.
Thank you, Jeff. And Kylie, you're next, followed by Nathan and then Mike.
Just want to add a little bit of positivity into the mix and just say that this work is great, and I think it's fantastic that you're going out to consult. I do remember actually when Councillor Leggett and I started the pilot, well, I would call it a pilot at Porirua School with that speed, and it actually has helped over the years, so onwards and upwards. I think you did answer my question though around the permanent speed limits in the town centres. I just read in the papers that it was speed limit, not permanent. So consult on the speed limit around town centres. So is that, are you consulting for a permanent one around the town centres or just a speed limit? Sorry, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, through the chair, it's when we say speed limit, is the speed limit at all times? That's become permanent.
Permanent.
Oh, okay, because I just noticed permanent. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. The other thing is around the marae. Marae Roa is obviously a marae that comes straight off the motorway. I just wanted to know, I'd be interested to see how that would work going from 60 or 70 to 50 to 30, back to 50, just for that particular vicinity. And there's actually another marae too, but it's up at Viard, but I just thought I'd put that in.
Through the chair. Yes, we don't just want to chop and change over short distances, so we've got to look at the bigger picture, and that might mean extending more on Wolfswhite.
That might mean what? Sorry, I didn't hear that, Darren.
Might be extending further on Wolfswhite, so we don't want a lot of short changes in speeds. One of the whole ideas of this coming out nationally is minimising the changes and having constant changes, just so it doesn't matter where you're driving, it's going to be 30 or 50. Yep.
And that will be stipulated quite well in those consultation documents for people.
Yeah, talk about it.
Very good. Okay, Nathan, you are next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the report. It's really quite in depth, and I will comment that I think the 30km/h speed limit for the Whitby Village is something that I know that the Whitby Residents Association, when I was a member on the committee there, were pushing for. We got signage to make it a slow zone, but now we can actually back it up with a 30k zone, so that's fantastic. My one question is just around the variable speed limits that you're going to do on those arterial routes, or proposing to do on the arterial routes around schools. How are we going to control those variable speeds?
The speed limit will be dropped at certain time frames, so before and after school starts and the stops, and that is not new concept. There are electronic signs as well. You could use it. Depends on what's the funding available. We could look into that kind of a thing. So the electronic sign means you can change the speeds, different speed. You can have 30, 40, 50, whatever. But when you have a static sign, then they will say, okay, from 8:30 to 9:30, it's going to be 30 kilometres an hour. The other times, it's going to be 50.
So there is signage at Porirua School, electronic signage. So it is available. I just don't know what the cost of doing that across
that's
35
my
schools would be.
my thought.
So, and I think it's something that we don't want to pay as a council. Waka Kotahi should pay for that. No, of course not.
It's all through the
FAR
rate, so there's a 52% subsidy.
Okay, so has that answered your question, Nathan? Mike, you have a question. Then Josh.
Yeah, look, thanks very much for the report. Absolutely error-free. I loved it. My question is, what constitutes a school? Like, is it all learning institutions? Because in the maps there, I note that Whitireia Polytech doesn't come into it. Neither does the kindergarten at the top of Herawini Street in Titahi Bay. And I thought those places probably should be included in those speed limits. And I wondered why that wasn't the case.
We started with the base from the mega maps, that's the Wakakotahi recognized schools, because those are the things, the high benefit areas they have identified. So whenever we ask for funding, that will help. So the other places hasn't been included, but if it is need to be included, we could put a proposal to them.
Just to, excuse me, through the chair, just to add to that, kindergartens, most of those children are escorted by adults, and polytechnics, they tend to be late teenagers into adults themselves. So it's the primary schools and the early colleges where the children may not be making great decisions in amongst vehicles.
Fair comment. Look, we're told the inherent risk with declining to consult with is that Wakakotahi could not support the proposed plan. Well, that would be great for me, actually. I'd be happy with that. So, but what's the point of consultation when this is actually a fait accompli anyway? I think we're wasting people's time.
Through the chair, if you think about the earlier conversation in this meeting about councillors deciding 70, officers proposing 60 for a link road, and then the conversation that Councillor Hayward has come, if the community come back and you make decisions, it is the council making the decision, not officers, that one or two of these areas should not be 30, they should remain at 50, then that's what we'll be putting through to Wakakotahi, and we'll see what happens.
All right.
One further question. We're told that the correlation of speed and accidents is well documented. What about the correlation of potholes and accidents? Has there been any research into that? Because I think we could be spending this money on fixing potholes rather than putting signs up.
Yeah, we probably. I take it that's a. We hear what you're saying. All right, we hear what you're saying. Ideally, we should do both. All right, Josh.
Yeah, thanks. Most of my questions have been answered, actually. Thank you. This is great. Support it. Just very quickly, could you remind me, what's the threshold for a road being considered an arterial route?
The arterial road is normally high traffic flow. Normally higher traffic volumes. It's under the one network category, it's classified arterial collector local roads. So that's what we are going with.
We can, through the chair, we could distribute to elected members the table which goes through the hierarchy of roads and the rationale for why a road is an arterial or a subarterial. There's about 7 categories. And so there's vehicle movements and bits and pieces. So
it would be good to be able to get that, to understand what is an arterial road.
Okay.
Yep.
Happy to do that, Mr. Chair.
All right. Are there any other questions? No. If not, I thank officers for the report, and it'll be interesting to see what happens through the consultation process. And some of us might like to be around if there are drop-ins or whatever, just to listen to what people are saying, because it is very interesting. All right, I'll now put that motion regarding the request to consult for the proposed speed management plan. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you, everybody. And thanks, guys. So that moves us to item 7.2, which is alteration and removal of designations. Now, I'm going to put this to get it onto the table. Do I have a seconder, please? Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Seconded. You'll understand that this is about two items. One is the Aotea Block Reservoir, and the other one is around removing the designations of police stations. So I'll take the report as read. Is there anything you want to add, Nick? I assume that...
No, I'll just check with Rory. There's nothing you want to add and change?
No?
No, take him as read.
Okay, right. Now, so do we have any questions, councillors? Mike?
Well, it pertains to the reservoir specifically. So there's no change to the reservoir height. So were we never going to actually be digging in there? Were we going to be just backfilling around the thing once it was constructed?
Through the chair, yes, I believe so. So the earthworks were being done by the developer, but the changes to the design have been as a result of the backfill being used for other purposes in the meantime during that period.
Right. And one other question. I was delighted to see that 400 to 800 truckloads were going to be cut down to just 100 truckloads. Thought that's going to save us a fortune on that. I'd like to know just how much money that saves us there, actually.
Through the chair, I don't have that specific answer, but in your LTP, you've got Wellington Water's building this reservoir, 25 million as a budget.
Yeah.
Price is actually about 33 million. And with what's happened with the delay for a year, I'll be in discussions with Wellington Water about trying to slow this one up in terms of affordability. If you think of your large wastewater tank, 85 million, 33 million is a lot of money. So some of the conversation is about when we started looking at this thing, whether you build it in the ground or outside the ground, what it means from earthquake strengthening point of view. So there's a bit of movement around there. So we'll take any savings we can possibly get.
Of course, Mike, those savings are already taken up by cost increases. So. But I note the point. This is an example of what we are going, the opportunities we have to delay expenditure where we don't have to do it in order to make sure that we meet our budgets, stay within budgets. All right, so there being... Oh, you have a question, Kathleen?
Yeah. I was just wondering with the what the reason might have been for the first plan to be, partially in the ground, what the reasons for that
were. I wasn't involved in that period, but I suspect it was mostly around visual amenity. But with this, the changes to the design, they've talked with the adjacent landowners and have undertaken some changes to the landscaping, which the adjacent landowners sought. So that has been mitigated in that respect.
All right. There being no further questions, I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. That now moves us to item 7.3, which is minutes from the external committees, which you will see there is 50 pages or 60 pages of them. I'll move those to get them onto the table. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Kathleen. Does anyone want to make any comments regarding these minutes in terms of, do they raise any issues for you? Mike?
Oh, did you?
No.
Don't tell me there are corrections.
Look, it's more a comment from me than a question. Look, I'm astounded at the amount of work that our mayor gets through in a week. And when I see the amount of committees that she's actually on as well, representing Porirua, I think, how the hell does she fit all that into the course of a week? The sad thing is that very few people in our city know just how much work that Anita does put in around the place on our behalf. And even for me at the coalface, until I see these minutes, I think, good God, how does she fit that in? So today I'd like to put on record a real vote of thanks to the Mayor for the work that she does for Porirua City. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Yeah, she does. There's quite a lot of work involved in those meetings, and some of them don't light up your headlights that much either. But say that. Great job. All right, so I'll take those things as read and take the comment and the accolade from Mike. I'll put the the motion that we receive those minutes. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Right. Now, that brings us to the end of that business. I'm now going to move that we go into public excluded. Do I have a seconder, please? Who am I getting to second? Tracy, you can. Seeing as you haven't seconded anything yet. We're just waiting for everyone to exit the room. Have a great day. Okay.